President Biden is set to address the joint sessions of Congress the night before his 100th day in office.
We're here today to talk.
3 Republican senators want to remove a special rule favoring Major League Baseball. This follows the league's boycott of Georgia over the state's election integrity law. And in the world of vaccines, Denmark bans all AstraZeneca shots amid reports of blood clotting. Another vaccine, Johnson & Johnson, being paused in the U.S. amid reports of blood clotting as well. Some note both are adenovirus, while Pfizer and Moderna are mRNA. Tune in a deep dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Let's talk vaccines. Johnson & Johnson getting paused. The Biden administration saying it won't impact the vaccination plans of the nation. And what about the concerns around vaccines? But first, some quick updates. There's finally a date for President Biden to address the joint sessions of Congress. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi invited him to address a joint session of Congress on April 28th. That's the night before his 100th day in office. In Pelosi's invitation, she called on Biden to address the nation during, quote, the challenges and opportunities of this historic moment. Biden has faced criticism for delaying his first address in contrast to his predecessors. Former President Donald Trump delivered his first speech to Congress on February 28th. That's about 2 months earlier than Biden. Presidents usually use their first address to celebrate their early accomplishments and chart a course for their administration for the years ahead. Biden is likely to celebrate passing the pandemic stimulus bill, which went through with 0 Republican support. The president will also likely speak about the wave of executive actions he took in the early days of his term. This address will look different because of the pandemic and security concerns. Now, as to baseball and Georgia facing off, 3 Republican senators want to remove a special rule favoring Major League Baseball. Senators Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and Mike Lee announced a bill to remove Major League Baseball's special status. Cruz explains why, saying what prompted this legislation being introduced was Major League Baseball's decision to pull the All-Star game out of Atlanta, Georgia. MLB Commissioner Robert Manfred Jr. says the league made the decision to demonstrate their values. He says the league fundamentally supports voting rights for all Americans and opposes restrictions to the ballot box. The league has since awarded the game to the city of Denver, and it will be hosted by the Colorado Rockies. Cruz says the league decided to move the All-Star game based on a false narrative about the law. He says the league did so based on a pile of lies. It did so based on the assertion that legislation the Georgia legislature took up to protect voter integrity somehow disenfranchised Georgia voters. The law requires voters to show ID to vote or request an absentee ballot, among other ballot integrity measures. Cruz says ID is required to pick up tickets at a professional baseball game. He says so Major League Baseball understands the value of identification, and they apparently don't think they are being bigoted racists when they ask you for a driver's license to pick up your tickets. Hawley says the league can expect to wield political influence and get government handouts at the same time. The antitrust exemption for baseball has been in place for 99 years. The Supreme Court decided in 1922 that Major League Baseball was not subject to federal antitrust laws, ruling against a challenge brought by a team from a defunct rival league. The 3 Republicans say they will sponsor the bill in the Senate. And now, speaking of games, let's turn to football. It could become mandatory to be vaccinated to attend a Buffalo Bills game in person. Erie County executive saying on Tuesday there is no God-given right to attend a football game. No vaccine equals no entry is the message. The goal is to have full stadiums again. He says unless you are vaccinated, you will not have entry to the stadium, adding we can then guarantee 70,000 plus people at the stadium. Medical and religious exemptions will not be accommodated. As for how to do this, he wants to use the state's recently rolled out vaccine passport type system, Excelsior. This comes despite civil liberties groups criticizing such passport type systems, and even the governors of Texas and Florida issuing executive orders to ban them. New York was the first to roll out the vaccine passport-like system called Excelsior, and now California's Orange County wants to follow suit. Orange County Healthcare Agency officials say the vaccine and testing credential arrangement will be rolled out sometime in April. This comes as state officials announced starting April 15th, private events with larger gatherings can happen again if all guests are tested or show proof of full vaccination. Local media report California's public health officer said last week there are no plans for state-level vaccine passports at this time. As to the country level, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has said the federal government will not require Americans to have vaccine passports. She told reporters at a media briefing Tuesday the government is not now, nor will we be supporting a system that requires Americans to carry a credential. Adding there will be no federal vaccination database and no federal mandate requiring everyone to obtain a single vaccination credential. While vaccine passports continue to be a hotly debated topic, vaccines themselves are also in the spotlight. Johnson & Johnson's vaccine has been put on pause. U.S. federal health agencies on Tuesday recommended pausing the use of J&J's vaccine. That's after 6 recipients developed a rare disorder involving blood clots. The New York Times reported 1 woman died and a second in Nebraska has been hospitalized in critical condition. All 6 recipients were women between 18 and 48 years of age. More than 6 million doses of Johnson & Johnson's one-shot vaccine have been administered in the U.S. The agency said an advisory committee to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will meet on Wednesday to review the case. The Food and Drug Administration will review the analysis. Both agencies said the adverse events appear to be extremely rare. Director of the Food and Drug Administration Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, Dr. Peter Marks, said on the call that right now these adverse events appear to be extremely rare. J&J said it is working closely with regulators. The drug maker said no clear causal relationship has been established between the events and its vaccine. And now the Department of Defense is halting Johnson & Johnson vaccine jabs to military members. DoD Press Secretary John Kirby said in a statement on Tuesday, at the recommendation of the FDA and CDC, the Department of Defense is immediately pausing the use of the J&J vaccine. Adding the safety of our force and their families is a top priority for the department. We are communicating this pause to our military health facilities and are reviewing our global vaccine distribution to address this issue and ensure we can continue to provide vaccines to our DoD population at home and abroad. Some, like former President Trump, are criticizing the CDC and FDA's call for a pause, considering that only 6 people experienced this problem. Trump said in a statement, the results of this vaccine have been extraordinary, but now its reputation will be permanently challenged. The people who have already taken the vaccine will be up in arms, and perhaps all of this was done for politics, or perhaps it's the FDA's love for Pfizer. He went after the FDA, saying, remember it was the FDA working with Pfizer, who announced the vaccine approval 2 days after the 2020 presidential election. They didn't like me very much because I pushed them extremely hard. As to how long the pause will be, top infectious disease expert Dr. Fauci says it'll only last days to weeks, while scientists are to investigate what's going on. The White House's COVID-19 response team says J&J being paused won't affect the vaccine program, since there are plenty of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines to go around. Biden also commented on the vaccine situation, saying, I made sure we have 600 million doses, not on either Johnson & Johnson and or AstraZeneca. He said, according to poll reports, so there is enough vaccine that is basically 100% unquestionable for every single solitary American. The White House COVID-19 response coordinator on Johnson & Johnson vaccines said the pause would not disrupt the overall vaccination plan. He says Johnson & Johnson vaccine makes up less than 5% of the recorded shots in arms in the U.S. to date. Adding, based on actions taken by the president earlier this year, the United States has secured enough Pfizer and Moderna doses for 300 million Americans. And on the international stage, J&J says they paused their European rollout for now. This comes 1 week after European regulators said they found a possible link between AstraZeneca's vaccine and a rare blood clotting problem. That led to a small number of deaths. And just 4 days ago, the European Medicines Agency said it was reviewing rare blood clots in 4 people in the U.S. who had received J&J's vaccine. And Fauci says there are similarities between the blood clotting issues seen in people after getting either Johnson & Johnson or AstraZeneca. He said on NBC's Today Show there are some rather strong similarities about this with regard to the time frame following vaccination. Particularly importantly, the clinical syndrome of these clots together with low platelets. So there are a lot of similarities there that you just can't miss. Both shots are adenovirus, or a common virus, to act as a vector to deliver a gene for the virus. That triggers the body's protection against the virus. The other two shots authorized for emergency use in the U.S., Pfizer and Moderna, are based on messenger RNA technology. According to the CDC, no post-vaccination blood clotting has been reported for either of those two shots. Scientists are still looking into it if that could be the cause of the blood clotting, adenovirus versus mRNA. But experts say right now it's too early to tell, as there isn't enough data. And Denmark has completely pulled AstraZeneca vaccines. Denmark's health agency director saying that Denmark won't use the shot as part of its vaccination campaign. That's amid reports of blood clotting. This comes as the World Health Organization and EU's European Medicines Agency have said the benefits of using AstraZeneca outweigh the negatives. Denmark's health agency director says overall we must say that the results show that there is a real and serious side effect signal in the vaccine from AstraZeneca. Adding, based on an overall consideration, we have therefore chosen to continue the vaccination program for all target groups without this vaccine. Danish officials previously said that 2 people who had received the vaccine suffered from severe blood clots. One of them died. This comes after more than a dozen other European Union nations suspended its usage. Most have since resumed use. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.